This is going at exponential speed. And if you're not in the best mental and physical health, you're going to get wiped out. And you're not just doing this for yourself, you're doing this for your family, for your kids, for your grandkids. This is mission critical. So I believe you need to find Hi, it's Roman Bodnarchuk from 10X Life. Today's a big day. It's probably the first time you've seen me in 15 years on YouTube or any channel sitting down, but today you're in my home. And I'm going to share some intimate things that have helped me and my clients become, incredibly successful. And today is important because I'm going to share some backstories, because sometimes in life you see the finished product, but you don't see what happened behind the scenes. And I'm going to take you behind the scenes on a lot of things, and I think it's going to be helpful. So for those of you that are new to 10X Life, this is a channel where we believe that the second half of your life can be 10 times better than your first half. Your first half of your life is full of struggle. It's painful. It's difficult. You're learning the skills. So if I can take you back to my early days, I was born to immigrant parents. My mom was born in Salzburg, Austria, in a refugee camp. Her family was escaping from the war, escaping from Ukraine. Her father was arrested for stealing meat to feed his family. My father was born in a refugee camp in Germany, also escaping the war from Ukraine. When I was born, we lived in a one-bedroom apartment in Toronto above a store. In this small one-bedroom apartment lived my grandmother, my grandfather that escaped from Ukraine, my mom and my dad and me, the baby. And my early days were not in a preschool. They were at my grandmother's store, which was underneath us. So underneath our one-bedroom apartment was Helen's Delicatessen. And my grandmother would get up at 4 a.m. and cook all the food and work 12-hour days. And me being the baby, I got to run around this little store and greet customers. So maybe that's where I learned customer service. So that was my early days. And then when my parents could afford to, they bought a small home and we moved to that house just outside Toronto in the suburbs. And it was great childhood. And I don't know exactly the age, but I was probably around 10. My dad had a nervous breakdown. He had run a business. Obviously, things got very difficult. If you can imagine a time when a young family has a mortgage and the mortgage rates hit 18%. I would recall a time when my dad would come home on Fridays and he would lift all the cushions in the couches looking for change, because every Friday he'd run to the bank to make any mortgage payment he could. So any dollar would make a difference when you're paying 18% mortgage rates. So today, when we think back about complaining about, 5 or 6% mortgage rates, I think back about what my parents had to go through. And my dad had a nervous breakdown and he was taken away from us. And it was extremely painful. As a young boy, I didn't understand what was happening. And we had to leave our home. And that was like the most painful part of my life, when you say goodbye to all your friends. And we moved to another house. It wasn't new like our suburbs house. It was an old house that needed a lot of work. But this is when I learned the power of friendship and family. So I remember my mom moved us by herself, 2 little kids, my sister and I. And we moved in this house that needed a lot of work. And this is when I learned the power of family, the power of friendships. It was incredible. Every night after work, my aunts, my uncles, my parents' friends would come to help. And we'd be stripping layers and layers of wallpaper. I don't know how many of you have ever stripped wallpaper, but it's not a fun task. And every night after work, I just saw all of my parents' friends and family come over and help do. Like, it wasn't fun, but they helped us. And I remember finally my dad came back, and it was emotional, still is today. So as a young boy, I understood the power of, high mortgage rates, business failures. I had severe asthma as a kid. I was in hospitals maybe 50 times a year in emergency through asthma. And I couldn't play sports. Every time I would try, I couldn't breathe, it taking me to emergency. I tried to go to summer camp one year and they had to take me to emergency. It wasn't fun. So I had a challenge with friendships because all my friends were athletic and playing sports. I couldn't do any of these things. So when I was around 10 years old, I remember I saw something on TV, and it was this guy named Frank Abagnale, and he was talking about what happened to him when he was 16 years old. When he was 16 years old, his parents, he didn't know they were getting a divorce, but they pulled him out of school. They brought him in, and what happened was when they took him into the courtroom, he had no idea why he was there. The judge said, "Do you want to live with your mother or your father?" And he had no idea what was happening. And he freaked out. He ran out. He ran out of the courtroom, and he made it to New York. And as a 16-year-old boy that was scared, figured out how to survive because he didn't want to deal with the craziness of what his parents were going through. And he did some crazy things. So I remember when I was 10 years old, I found out he wrote this book called Catch Me If You Can. And this is the original copy. It was $10. And I don't want to paint a picture that I was poor. My parents always provided. I'm very, very grateful. But I remember paying the $10 for this book by myself, and how I got the $10. We were on vacation in Florida, and I would we used to have, how many of you remember these things? We used to have these payphones. And in Florida, there's a lot of old people. And old people don't look for change when they get out of their car. The change falls out. In parking lots, I pick up quarters. I check vending machines. Anyways, I earned the $10 by picking up quarters. So when you buy something, it's your own money, you keep it. So this is many, many decades later. This is my original copy of Catch Me If You Can. And the reason this book stuck out for me is what this boy went through and then what he did. And the funny part of all this is decades later, I'm maybe 21 or 22 years old, and I'm at a Tony Robbins event, a 14-day event in Hawaii. It was super expensive. It was like 16,000 US dollars. I didn't even know how I was going to pay for it at the time, but I knew I had to go. And it was a life-changing event for me. I became a vegetarian. Lots of crazy things happened to me in this 14-day seminar, a Tony Robbins seminar. But this man sat next to me when we had a break. We're outside in Hawaii. It was beautiful. And he said, we're having lunch. And he said, "Hey, can I sit beside you?" I said, "Sure." And he asked me my name, asked his name. And I said, "Boy, you look familiar." I said, "What was your name again?" "Frank." And he says, "Frank Abagnale." And then I was like, just I'm incredibly taken aback, because this is like the man that changed my life when I was 10 years old. I read his book. So I told him how at the age of 14, because of him, I was inspired to take a real estate seminar. So there's a gentleman named Raymond Aaron, which is still an incredible mentor. And he ran a full page ad in a newspaper in Toronto, a Toronto newspaper. And it was about how to learn real estate in a weekend. So I told my parents, I'm going to sign up for this course. And they said, I don't think this is for, 14-year-old boys to be taking this weekend course at this university. It's called York University. I said, I know, but I'm going to do it. So I took this course, probably inspired by that book. And because I learned in that book that it didn't matter what your age was, you can do anything you wanted. And that course really changed the trajectory of my life. I made the investment at age 14 to take the course, and that was a big deal. I spent 2 days, I studied everything, and I learned how to buy residential real estate, specifically income properties. I learned a formula that I still use 4 decades later. It's made me millions of dollars, but it's because I made the investment, age 14, and within 90 days, I was able to find a property. The problem with the banking laws is they don't let you get a mortgage when you're age 14. So I had to convince some people that were adults, over 18, to get a mortgage. And that was a tough sell. This is when I learned salesmanship. And my parents were instantly no. And I don't blame them. What they went through with their mortgage and what they went through, I get it. But I was able to convince my aunt and uncle. And that was incredible. If it wasn't for them saying yes to me, I wouldn't be here today. And because of my uncle, and it's my mother's brother, I think guilt set in. And then I was able to convince my mother to also co-invest. So I learned about a co-ownership age of 14. So we bought an income property in Toronto. I think it's $82,000. Address is 191 Annette Street. Still looks the same when you look at it from the outside. And we took the basement apartment and we renovated it, created a triplex. What I learned is when you fix up a property and you make it look nicer, you can get higher rents. And this was my project. I was in charge of the whole thing. And within a few months, we were able to go to the bank and ask for refinancing. So I learned about refinancing. and we refinanced it. We were able to take enough money out of that property to buy the one next door, 193 a net. We did the same thing. I've been doing this hundreds of times around the world now, and I learned the power of real estate. And the reason I tell you this long story is I don't care how old you are. I don't care what your background is. Anything is achievable. Today I was reading about how many university dropouts have created billion-dollar companies. So I dropped out of university, and I just want to go through the list of just a few people that I was reading about that dropped out of university. Because some of, we all have excuses, and some people are like, well, I don't have an MBA. I don't have, whatever education. Well, Bill Gates dropped out of university. Steve Jobs dropped out of university. Larry Ellison dropped out of university. Travis Kalanick dropped out of university. Adam Newman, just for those who don't know, we're talking about the founders of Microsoft, Apple, Oracle, Uber, WeWork, Facebook. I can go on. Even Elon, he did have 2 undergraduate degrees, but he dropped out of his PhD program. So I don't care what your education is. It's, especially in the age of AI, it's completely meaningless. And the second thing I want to tell you is it doesn't matter how young you are or how old you are. I also did some research recently, and I said, well, how many people over the age of 40 have started really successful companies? So just a couple names that you might be familiar with. Home Depot. I mean, how many of you go to Home Depot? I can't tell you how many thousands of trips I've made to Home Depot. Home Depot was started by Bernie Marcus at age 49. That's when he started the company. Steven Schwartzman, Blackstone. Blackstone owns everything. For those of you who don't know, like Blackstone literally owns everything. He started the company at 38. Leo Goodman from Geico, age 50. Dave Duffield starts a software company at the age of 46 called PeopleSoft. Ray Kroc, McDonald's, age 52. Sam Walton, how many of you have a weekly trip or weekly orders from Walmart? Biggest retailer in the world. Age 44 is when he started the company. How about Colonel Sanders, KFC, 15,000 locations, every country in the world. It starts at age 62. How about Bank of America? This one shocked me. The founder of Bank of America started at age 45. So the reason I want to tell you this 10X life story is I don't care where you came from. You could have come from immigrant backgrounds that shared a 1-bedroom apartment with your grandparents. I don't care if you graduated or didn't graduate. I don't care if you're 14 or if you're 69 years old. Any dream that God gave you, you can achieve. God doesn't give us dreams to tease us. If God gave you a dream and God gave you an idea, God also gave you the ability to achieve that dream. What I see today in our society is we just make excuses. All we do is make excuses. And today it's all mental health. And I understand mental health. My father had a nervous breakdown. He was taken away from us for months. I understand anxiety and ADHD and all these horrible I understand depression. I understand loneliness, but we have to overcome these things. And every day you determine your future. Your future is not determined by your long-term goals. Your future is determined by what you do today. It's determined about your daily habits, and what you do every day determines your future. So the 10X show is really about how do we reprogram our day so we win the morning. You see, if you win the morning, you've won the day. It's your morning routine. It's how early did you get up? How great a night's sleep did you have? Did you work out right away? And when you wake up refreshed because you went to bed early and you do your workout and you do your one big thing every morning, like your one most important task every day, you win the day. And when you win the day, you win your week and you win your month and you win your year. I mean, this is how it is. It's simple. This is not about planning the next 5 years of your life. It's about let's plan your day. And your day starts with how early you went to bed. And not drinking alcohol or, doing other stupid things that we know that destroy our bodies, and getting the good night's rest and getting up early and feeling rested and doing the hard stuff first, like the workout, doing the one most important task you got to do first thing in the morning, getting it done. This is how we succeed in life. So I think what happens is so many people have so many excuses. And I believe that you can make money or you can make excuses. There is, you just got to pick one. You can't make both. So think about it. You're going to make excuses, you're going to make money. And I think it's really important for all of us. We're in a time of massive change. For those of you that watched Elon Musk present the future 2 nights ago, he showed us his robots that very soon we're all going to have one in our home. This robot can do pretty much, 80% of what humans can do around the house. This is going to change every industry, every business. You are now competing not just with the AI, you're competing with robots. This is in the next 2 years. AI right now, this is a 2-year-old technology. It's already smarter than any PhD. Okay. So if you are not leveraging your mental ability and your strength to learning AI, to understand how the entire world is going to be reshaped, there's going to be rich and poor, and it's going to happen very, very quickly. We talk about the 1%, there's going to be like 99% in the 1%, no different than 100 years ago with agriculture. So 100 years ago, like 95% of us were working in agriculture, like less than 5% of the world works in agriculture today. It was a transformative thing that happened over decades. This is going to happen over the next 2 years. So you need to be in the best shape of your life, mentally, physically, to be able to be ready to adopt this new AI world. So today we're going to get into some details about what I think is the most important thing you can do. So buckle your seatbelts. We're in for a big ride today. This is going to be a big, big show. Welcome to the AI revolution. I appreciate you listening to the backstory. And sometimes these backstories are a little bit emotional. They're a bit difficult. And I think sometimes we never share these stories. Actually, today was the first time I ever shared, what I did today in terms of my background. But I think it's important when you think about success and you look at successful people to understand the pain and the suffering that they went through before. Nobody has it easy. Everyone is battling something. Everyone. There's people that disguise it much better than others, but everyone is fighting demons. Everyone is fighting some really, really difficult things. And we all feel like it's only us and we're alone. We're not. Everyone's going through it. But today I want to inspire you to stop making excuses and do the hard work, because it's through the hard work that life changes. So I want to talk to you about the most important book I've ever read. I've read, I mean, I don't want to say I've finished them all, but I've at least started the first couple chapters on about 1,000 books. And that's a lot of books. And the most important out of the 1,000 for me, and obviously the Bible would be included, but from a business perspective, the most important book that I've ever read cover to cover a dozen times is Think and Grow Rich. And I know you've heard about Think and Grow Rich, but for some of you that haven't or haven't read it in a while, you need to read it again. This is the most important personal development self-help book ever written because it was commissioned over a 20-year period. Andrew Carnegie had commissioned this book to be written, and it took Napoleon Hill 20 years full time of his life to interview the 500 most successful humans alive. So over a 20-year period, and these people are pretty impressive. If you take a look at Andrew Carnegie's wealth, if it was in today's dollars, it would be over $200 billion. Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, Alexander Graham Bell, Charles Schwab. I mean, these were the most successful titans of all time. And again, their wealth in today's dollars would be similar to Jeff Bezos's or even more than Elon Musk's. And what he was studying was the philosophy of achievement. And he distilled it down to 13 traits that all these 500 successful men had. And one of the most important was something called the mastermind. And what the mastermind is, and today we call it a mastermind group, it's when you take a group of men, it could be women as well, but at this time, this was mostly men, and you take a group of very ambitious men that want to better themselves. Today I call it 10xing their life. It's really, really important to have that group of men and meet regularly to push each other. Because here's what happens. We all have the information. In the age of Google today, in the age of AI, we have the information. We know what we shouldn't be doing, but guess what? We keep doing it. Until you have a group of men that you are accountable to, until you're in a group of men that inspire you, until you're with a group of men that you want to become like, and they challenge you and they hold you accountable, you will never make the change. I was with a very successful doctor yesterday, and he was talking to me about his business issue, and he's basically had a similar issue since 2001. This is a very successful man. And I just said to him, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing day in, day out, expecting different results. We do it all the time. I see this all the time with business people. Again, the definition of insanity, doing the same thing day in, day out, expecting different results. We have the information. We know what we're supposed to do. Why aren't we doing it? Why aren't we exercising every morning? Why are we smoking, or why are we drinking, or why are we staying up late at night, or why are we on our phones 4 or 5 hours a day of regretful time? Why are we doing this stuff? Because we don't have a group of men to elevate us, to push us, to keep us accountable, to keep our word. We need to learn how to keep our word. And if you could do it yourself, you would have done it already. Okay, that's the truth. If you could have done it by yourself, you would have done this, but you haven't. And the reason we haven't is because we didn't have a group of men to hold us accountable, to hold us to standards that we set. So I don't care what your goals are, what your dreams are, but when you have a group of men that are successful, that are success driven, and unfortunately, it's usually not our friends and family. And that's just a sad truth. The most successful people that I know, they're not my friends and family. My parents, I love them more than, anyone could love a parent, and they're incredible human beings, but they are not driven for 10xing their life right now. Although they have 10x their health, which is a whole other story we'll talk about another time. But if you want to 10x your income, 10x your revenue, and you can do it. I mean, I've done it personally. I've helped many of my clients 10x their income, 10x their revenue. This can be done in a year. I mean, this is not actually, I believe it's easier to 10x your income, to 10x your revenue than to 2x it. I know it sounds crazy, but I just know this to be true. So, but unless you align yourself with a mastermind group that has men that have done it and have achieved the results that you want, you're never going to do it. So we're forming our own mastermind group. And this is because I couldn't find one that was at the level that I wanted, on a level of elite men that were in the second half of their life. They weren't 20, they weren't 30, they're in the second half of their life. And they'd one desire, whether it was health, relationships, it could be income, starting a business, whatever it is. And they didn't want their old stories to be their future stories. And I'm in that category. I want to 10x my income. I want to 10x my revenue. Last year I was able to get in the best shape of my life, which is a big deal for me. And this year, and for the men that join me, we are going to 10x our income. We're going to 10x our revenue. But unless you're in a group like that, it's not going to happen for you. So you can read all the books. You can read the 1,000 books. You can spend 4 hours a day studying all the great YouTube videos. But until you have a group of men that inspire you, that hold you accountable, it's not going to happen for you. So what I believe is, if you just go back to 1937 and read the book that took 20 years to write, when they studied the 500 most successful humans, the men that built the greatest empires known to men. I mean, the reason that you have free libraries all over North America is because Andrew Carnegie, he paid for them all. I mean, these titans, the Rockefellers, these are the people that built what we know now is from the Industrial Revolution. Well, the new age is all changing now. Now it's going to be AI. And that's why you've got people like Elon Musk. You need to pay very careful attention to what he's doing, because he's redefining our entire future. What you see now with robotics and with these cars, driverless cars, this is a reality. He demonstrated that to us this week. All these things that we've seen in science fiction models, this is real now. But if you haven't adjusted to it mentally and you're not ready for it, you're going to be wiped out. There's going to be rich and there's going to be poor. I live in Toronto, and the amount of people I see on the streets and the bread lines already, I can't imagine what's going to happen in 2 years when the robots take over half of the jobs and AI takes over the other 45% of jobs. I mean, this is a world that this is Darwinian. This is a time where you need to really be in the best shape of your life mentally and physically, because we're going through massive changes much faster than the dot-com revolution, much faster than that was slow compared to this. This is going at exponential speed. And if you're not in the best mental and physical health, you're going to get wiped out. And you're not just doing this for yourself, you're doing this for your family, for your kids, for your grandkids. This is mission critical. So I believe you need to find a mastermind group that inspires the hell out of you, and you've got to commit to it. And when I say commitment, I mean find one that costs more than you can afford. Put yourself in a place of pain. When I was 21 or 22 years old, when I put $16,000 US on an Amex card because I had no limit to go to a 14-day seminar in Hawaii, I honestly didn't even know how I was going to pay it off. And Amex says you got to pay in full. But it was the best decision I ever made. By age of 30, I was a millionaire. I got venture capital financing. By age 35, I was doing $1 million a year. I got all this, but it all came back from this investment that I made at age 14 when I went to the Raymond Aarons seminar, weekend seminar. The investments I'd made, in my 20s with Tony Robbins. If you don't invest in yourself, your income will never go higher. The best investment isn't Bitcoin, even though it's been my best investment the last 4 years, but your best investment's always yourself. It's always yourself. So the multiples on the return on yourself are exponential, but you need to invest in yourself. So if you're not willing to invest in yourself, your income will never go higher than your personal development. When I meet friends these days, and I'm like, oh, how's business going? Oh, great, we're here. How many years you been at that level? Oh, a couple of years. And the reason they can't break that ceiling, they got to look in the mirror. It's got nothing to do with the economy. It's got nothing to do with the political party. It's not the government. No, look in the mirror. Okay. Your income and your business is only going to grow as much as the founder, as the owner, the CEO. That's what's holding you back. All of us. The only thing holding you back in life is in the mirror. And if you don't make the investment, an investment in time and money, you're going to be stuck in this place. And I'm telling you, this place is difficult because you can't just coast. We're going to live a long time. I'd always set a goal to live to 100. Now I revised my goal to 120. The information we have today, the technology we have today, I'm actually reversing my aging when I do all these tests now. I already, my age is 14 years younger than my, my biological age. It's working. So you're going to live a long time. You need a lot of money for that. A friend of mine, one of my best friends, was telling me what it cost to keep his parents in an old age facility. It was $11,000 a month for his parents. And then his wife's parents, they want to stay at home. It's $24,000 a month to keep them. Guys, we need a lot of money to deal with this aging. We're all going to live longer. So if you are not in a time and a place where you're figuring out how to make more money and 10xing your life, you're going to be in trouble. For those of you that believe these government numbers about inflation, this is just complete propaganda. When you go to McDonald's and you take your 2 teenage sons like I do, and it costs $50, you go, this is inflation. Okay. This is nonsense. When I go to a Subway sub and I order a foot-long sub, a tuna sub with extra avocado, and it costs $22, that's inflation. Okay. So what that means is if you think that your investments making 6 or 7% are going to work, no. The real rate of inflation is between 15 and 20%. What does that mean? It means if you have $100, okay, your real rate of inflation a year from now, that $100 in cash is worth $80. It's worth $85. For those of you that bought a house 20 years ago and you said, oh, I'm rich now because I paid $1 million for the house. And now 20 years later, it's 3 million. I did great. No, you didn't. If we do the math on this, and I've been buying and selling real estate for 40 years now, here's what really happened. You paid $1 million for the property. You spent $1 million on interest payments over those 20 years. There's 2 million. And then over 20 years, I guarantee you that between the property taxes, the new roof, the new furnace, the improvements you've made, you spent another $1 million. You haven't made any money. Now you've had a free place to live. Great, good for you. But the reality is inflation is eating up all of our returns. So we have no choice but to learn new skills, new investments, understand AI, because if not, we're going to be left because we're going to live longer and our costs are going to exponentially increase. Now, why is this happening? When the government is printing money like we've never seen. This last week was the first week of the new financial fiscal budget for the US government. They spent more money in 1 week, more money in 1 week than they did in literally 2 decades. This is unbelievable. The interest payments that they pay on the debt now surpasses, for example, the US. It's more they spend on the military. Nobody in the world spends more on military in the US. The US military spends more than the other 10 countries in the world combined. And now that line item is surpassed by interest payments. Canada's even worse. We're spending unbelievable amount of money that we don't have. We keep printing money. Why do we care? Because it means your dollars are becoming worthless. So when your dollars are becoming worthless, you have to work so much harder. You have to work so much, you've got to put so much more effort into just sustaining your life. So I hope today I've inspired you to whether you have to create this mastermind group, which is super hard because I know because I'm doing it right now, or find the mastermind group of incredible men that are not content, that want to be in the best shape of their life, that want to 10x their income, want to 10x their revenue, want to dominate AI, want to have incredible relationships with their spouses, with their children. If you want to find a group like that, reach out to us and we can help you. We're doing this now in Toronto. We're doing this in New York City. We're doing this in West Palm Beach. We're doing this in Miami. We're doing this in Costa Rica. I haven't been so excited about something in years. The last time I was this excited when I created the first co-living business in Canada and the first luxury co-living in the US and one in Costa Rica. I have not been so fired up in my life because we're changing people's lives. So I encourage you to learn about a mastermind group. Maybe start with Think and Grow Rich and why it's so important and why it was one of the traits of the 500 most successful men back, in 1937, and it is today. Because if you don't have that core group of men to push you, to hold you accountable, it's going to be really hard. And if you don't want 2025 to look like 2024, you've got to make the massive changes now. Do not wait. This is not about setting your goals January 1st. It's about right now. Take action. If you had the information and you haven't done it right now, it's because you're not going to. You need someone to help you, to push you. We all need this. So I thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it. And I hope to see you at maybe one of our upcoming 10X Mastermind dinners. Thank you.